So that just gives you a little bit of a visual on that. I mean, Sade, with you being a minority, I mean, how has that kind of affected anything in your law journey? Have you kind of come against any kind of aversion to that?
Oh my goodness.
Where do we
Where
start?
would I even start? We don't have enough time for me to even address all of that. But when you talked about the statistics, and there being a larger percentage of African Americans who are entering into law school, but then there being such a small number. I remember when I was in law school, my legal research and writing professor, you're supposed to have blind grading. But she informed me that she could see through the marker and saw my name. And, you know, in our session with each other, she was trying to convince me to drop out of school.
What?
And she's sitting there.
White or color?
She was a white female.
Okay.
And she was trying to convince me to drop out of school and tell me, you know, I was a mother when I went to law school, and you know, just go home and be a mom. You know, that's
Why?
what you
What
need
was
to
her
do.
reasoning?
She didn't really have, you know, great reasoning, but there was also another black. I say that to say there was another black female who was in the same section as me with the same legal research and writing teacher. And so, whereas my personality was one of, girl, I don't give up, and you know, I'm one of those people. If you tell me I can't do something, I like to prove you wrong.
Right. Double down.
And I love when someone underestimates me. I want you to, you know, so that
Right.
I can come in and show you what I can do. But the other female also met with the same legal research and writing professor, and she told me that she had told her the same thing. But the sad part was that she actually dropped out of school.
Wow.
We keep in contact with each other over Facebook, but it's so sad that there is such a underrepresentation of African Americans in the legal field, as well as African American females.
Yeah.
You know, in this county that we practice in, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of attorneys. But when you talk about African American lawyers, I don't even need all of our hands
Yeah.
to count how many are here. You know, how many actually practice in this area. So
And then break that down even further for female.
you know, so it's definitely that, you know, I always,
We've thought through this, and it's like literally, it all fits on one hand, and of those people on one hand, most of them don't even practice.
Yeah. So, you know, when you're going into the courtrooms, I am not immediately assumed that I am an attorney. It is oftentimes I'm believed to be the court reporter, or I'm someone's secretary, or I'm a paralegal, or even the defendant. It's never assumed, because they don't often see someone who looks like me, that I'm the attorney. And so that's one of those things where, you know, it's a bit problematic in my practice of, you know, here I am, a woman who is completely capable, who has passed the bar, who has studied, who is practicing, and yet when individuals see me, it is not, you know, assumed that I am of the likes of the other individuals who are walking into the courtroom to do the work just like I am.
How has that affected you? You know, do you thrive off that, or does that in some, you know, some way, you know, make you self-conscious in any way, or make you feel any?
No, I tell you, it was a lot. It was very disheartening when I first started practicing. I tell people this all the time. When I first started practicing, I thought, you know what? I've arrived.
I did all the things.
I checked
all the
boxes. You know, I went to undergrad. I went and got an MBA. I went to law school. I didn't just do law school. I tried to excel. I graduated with honors. I got awards while I was there.
Good for you.
And then I passed the bar when I was super broke the first time. And so because
while
I
being a
did,
mother. All while being
yes,
a mother.
all while being a mom. But I did this, and so I must be accepted, right? All of these doors are going to finally open for me. And they did not. Okay. I started practicing here in Horry County, and it was so sad. Amy, I don't know if I've ever told the story to Amy, so she might be hearing this for the first time. I say it to people all the time. But when I first started practicing as a private attorney here, I go into court, and you don't know where to sit. They don't teach you this in law school. They don't tell you where you need to sit. They don't tell you where to go. They don't tell you who to talk to. And so I go into Myrtle Beach Municipal, and I sat where all of the defendants sit. I didn't know any better. Okay. I sat down and I waited, because I assumed that someone would call attention to me when it was time for me to speak. And I went several times, and no one ever said to me, you know, Miss Crawford, you're sitting in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, this is just really awkward. So one time I go to court and Amy comes in and she sees me sitting in the wrong spot. And she's like, what are you doing? What is your name?
I did not know Sade.
You know, what is your name?
I knew she was very pretty.
And I
She
said,
looked
you know,
very
I'm Sade
smart, and she
Crawford.
looked like a lawyer.
And she's like, aren't
too
you
dressed up.
Judge such and such's daughter? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why are you sitting right here? And I was like, I'm waiting for them to call me. And she's like, this is not where lawyers sit. Come on over here, girl. Let me show you where the
that Louis
lawyers
Vuitton
sit.
bag over
Okay.
here.
And then she made one of the male attorneys get up, give me the seat, and said, you know, this is where you sit. And then introduced me to everybody there and brought me into the conversation. And it was on that day I was like, oh, I want to be her friend. She just made me feel so welcome. And I don't know that she intentionally did that, but here it is 10 years later, and I still tell that story to people when they ask me, why did I come and work here? Because you saw that and it probably was such a natural thing for you.
Yep.
To just bring me into the fold. But here I was feeling so disheartened that I wanted to quit practicing law. And I remember, I won't say anymore. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
That's great.
But I had gone to a federal sentencing guidelines CLE, and I sat next to a female attorney who had been practicing in federal court for like 25 years, and she was crocheting next to me. And I expressed to her how disheartened I was, and she said to me, please don't give up. The law needs women. Federal court needs women. And she said, if you give the law 10, it will give you 20. And I didn't know what she meant by that. And I asked her, and she clarified, and she said, if you can just make it 10 years, I promise you your career is going to fly by and it's going to give you 20. But we need you. Please stay. And that meant a lot.
You're gonna make everybody cry before we can even talk.
I'm
Sade.
sorry,
I got
guys.
goosebumps,
Sorry,
tearing
guys.
up. Amy, for heaven's sake, I won't ask her a question for another couple minutes. But thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's a personal question, and it's your own personal journey. So I appreciate that, because who knows who's watching, right? Who needs to hear that, right? Sarah, I'll move to you and just ask, obviously it's a different perspective because you're not a woman of color, but you are a female. So have you kind of run into anything along your journey as a female that kind of has stood out to you?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky that when I started practicing law, it was with Amy. So I never had moments of Sade being lost in court and sort of being looked over. I've had a few, but right when I started, Amy took me in and was like, this is Sarah, she's sitting here, meet everybody. So I didn't have to feel that, and I'm lucky. I know I'm lucky. But there's been plenty of times where I'm the court reporter. I've been mistaken for the defendant as well. Or the paralegal is most often. And I think that's because I look younger, and I'm probably a lot younger than the other people in the room. And so
She's
that's
also the smartest.
that's challenging at times, but I've learned to sort of deal with it. And now there was recently an out-of-state attorney I was on the phone with, and I always get paralegal a little bit after they don't really like where I'm going with the conversation. They know we're going to start disagreeing, and so they're like, well, are you the paralegal? Who's the attorney? Like, they're trying to escalate it. And so now when I get, are you the paralegal? I just respond with, no, are you? And then the phone just goes silent. Why would I be the paralegal? I'm a man.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely. The lovely